Hello everybody, my name is Derrick Edwards and welcome to Free Tours by Foot. Not only do we give you in-person pay-as-you-wish tours, but we also give you virtual tours. And today we are highlighting the beautiful neighborhood of Dumbo with the Manhattan skyline behind me. No, it is not named after the Disney elephant, but we got love for them too. It actually stands for Down Under the Manhattan Bridge Overpass. And today, it's one of the cooler, certainly most photographed neighborhoods in Brooklyn and one of the most photographed neighborhoods in all of New York City. But that doesn't mean that's how it always started. The story starts about 100 years ago in the 1780s, as we are now an independent country, and a gentleman by the name of Sands bought this area and named it Olympia because this was supposed to be a summer refuge from busy Manhattan in the skyline. And obviously they didn't have skyscrapers like that. They had the wooden version. But nevertheless, this was supposed to be a quiet place for refuge. And it would have been like that except for one major revolution, the Industrial Revolution. And what we get instead is a lot of the warehouses that are predominant throughout this neighborhood. And it was a working neighborhood. Things were built, things were produced in this neighborhood. Nobody was doing tours of Dumbo in 1940, 50, 60, and 70 unless your tour was, I need a damn job. That's just the way it worked, okay? So today, with all of the innovation and renovation that's gone throughout New York City, this neighborhood did get gentrified, but it was young artists who were looking for cheap rents and came to this neighborhood where it would have been more aptly named Dumbo than Dumbo because taxi cab drivers would not drop you here. I would talk one of the best things about being a guide here in New York City is in-person, primary source talking to people. Taxi drivers that have done the job 30, 40 years, they would say, they would get on one part of the bridge and drop you off and say, you're on your own down here. Easy to get robbed. That was that Dumbo. This is Dumbo now, which is actually one of the leading neighborhoods in the tech boom that is now coming in New York since the 2010s. And one of the flourishing art districts, but it's not the broke artist district. You gotta come visit me in Bushwick. This is the wealthy artist district, and you're pretty well known if you make your way here in Dumbo today. Now, with that said, as we cross over toward the York Street stop, couple things. A lot of people say the only train that really goes into Dumbo is the F train. That is not correct. I would also tell you the AC at High Street Brooklyn Bridge will put you on the edge of the neighborhood. Remember, Dumbo is locked in by the Brooklyn Bridge and the Manhattan Bridge, which you can actually see now in the background. You see it was a very short walk, and now you can see the second bridge. We'll see the Manhattan Bridge many times on the tour. You don't have to worry about that. But the F train will put you on the edge, High Street Brooklyn Bridge. Dumbo is not more than a 10 to 15 minute walk from the very top of it down to the water. So no matter which area you get off, it won't take you long to get to the other side. Now, as we come right here, this is the Robert Gere building today where we see solid core. And as we start to walk this way, we see it is also the corporate headquarters of Etsy, the famed online retailer with all the little cute, adorable, small items that are sold. Remember I said tech is a big thing in this neighborhood, but there's history behind this. You heard me. That history is it's the Robert Gere building. Who is he? Something that you use all the time. Invented the cardboard box at this factory and warehouse. So as a Scottish immigrant, Robert Gere created the cardboard box, and today, as we see, it is a corporate headquarters of Etsy. There are a lot of tech companies, and there are a lot of multimedia companies, and they're not big like the Universals, NBC, CBS's, they're in Midtown Manhattan. But if you're talking about small people who third party will shoot, do audio, maybe edit different film projects and stuff, there's quite a few offices for them right here in Dumbo. Now, while all the traffic, as you see, they're coming toward the Manhattan Bridge, which on the other side connects you to Chinatown. For many New Yorkers use the Manhattan Bridge more than the Brooklyn. The Brooklyn is more historically important, but the Manhattan Bridge puts you to Canal Street, which can get you back to the Holland Tunnel in Jersey, puts you right by Little Italy, and it connects to Flatbush Ave in Brooklyn, which is its own little world. Now, as we move this way, and we're gonna get to the art, because this is a hot artist neighborhood. We're looking at Shadow Box. So as we move this way, we are looking at Shadow Box, and we're gonna see they have a nice ring, and it's a great place to get a workout on, jab, cross, and hook, and it's cool. It's certainly nice looking boxing ring, but it ain't the real flavor in the neighborhood. We're gonna take you to that gym, and that gym is historic, and a who's who of many people across every spectrum of life have been there. But we're gonna get to that later, so y'all stick with us. We got some fun stuff coming up. This is done by Katie Mers for Shadow Box, which was the gym we just saw. But this is really back to what I was talking about. Dumbo was not desirable in the 1970s. Jacked up car, fire, garbage fire, more fire, Jimmy the Pigeon Man, stray dogs, a lot of stray dogs down here because places were boarded up that were no longer in use. And when they were no longer in use, they would have dogs just there to protect the property. After a while, it'd be holes cut in the fence, the dogs would just be out and do their things too. It was not a nice place to be. We're going to get what took it from really well-run industrial area to down. And we're going to talk about that overall change in New York City. And it wasn't just in Dumbo. That's the thing. Whenever any of us as guides talk, we'll often reference another neighborhood. It is not to show off our knowledge, but you'll often find there's parts of the story in more than one neighborhood. Dumbo and Williamsburg and Soho and the Meatpacking District all have the change in New York from being an industrial center to its recreation into by the 90s and 2000s today. So we're moving on. There is a Dumbo Arts Alliance here today. And I did say it's an art neighborhood. And every so many couple of years, art changes. This art comes to us in 2019, and it's by an artist by the name of Apollo Torres. Now, Apollo Torres has been raised in both Sao Paulo, Brazil, and New York. And as we can look in the background, might come out just a tad bit, we can see a kids on bikes. He felt that bikes connected both cities because of the mobility and the need for mobility. He is an internationally renowned artist. Now this is real Brooklyn style. Good look. We just make our own way. You like that, right? We won't be doing that with you on real tours. We're safe then. Now I'm just doing it on my own, so we change it a little bit. Here's Apollo. Here's his tag, Apollo Torres, as a street artist. A little bit about his life in New York and Sao Paulo, Brazil, over our shoulder. And one thing that came up with both countries, the United States and Brazil, having an incredible legacy with slavery, he felt both the Congo drums that can be used in jazz and samba in Brazil, jazz here in the United States, that they took European instruments, but the sound was so remarkably infused with African traditions. on kind of way of mellowing the effects of slavery, but part of that history. So beautiful mural, as you see, and again, beautiful djembe. I said Congo, but actually they're djembe drums. I apologize, there's actually djembe drums. And you can see the trumpet here, and just that legacy of good music. And again, United States known as the birthplace of jazz, Brazil, samba, both great art forms. So as you see, a lot of beautiful artwork in the neighborhood. One reason people like this area is no matter, you could be here getting this beautiful artwork and really good picture now of the bicycle spoke. The colors, I like the purple, a little bit of lavender in there. And it's kind of, purple kind of cool, relax out. Same thing on this side. But you can be getting this great picture and then you turn around, you have the bridge directly above you, the humming of the trains. And if you look out with our camera, you can see the Empire State. So that's one of the draws to why so many people come down here. We will get to the shops. We're gonna talk about more history, but you could be taking in all this art and all this, and then you got this unbelievable view. So many pictures you could take, so much natural ambiance always around that it's pretty interesting. Now, I wanna point out one other mural. This mural right here is Craig Anthony Miller, who is a local, is a New Yorker. They simply call this the Birds. Now it's starting to fade, but this has been up here, by my recollection off the top of my head, 6 years at this point. 5 to 6 years or so. And it's faded with the elements, it is outside, but beautiful artwork. Remember the colors and the style of this, because we're gonna see this artist at least 2 more times here in Dumbo. So after a while, you start feeling like, oh, I know who this artist is. You can feel like you're one of the tour guides yourself and impress your friends, but it's because you, by that time, or the third time you see it, you'll recognize he's often called Cam, Craig Anthony Miller, his work. And that's one of the reasons way we're able to identify artists too. Signature style. It gets loud in this part of Dumbo. On a funny note, 1970s, they dropped off a lot of bodies down here. You can see why, right? When trains go overhead, they don't know, hides gunshots real easy. You wanted to know what New York, some history of it. 70s were a rough time in New York. We were nearly bankrupt as a city, very corrupt. And so when you talk to people, again, this isn't me, when you talk to some of the older people, they will talk about the 50s and how many thriving warehouses were in this area and how many people had jobs down here. But by the 70s, how many of them had left? How many people had moved to the suburbs? New York lost population, New York lost its tax base. And when you think about something like that, I don't care what city in the world you're in, that's a major, major transformation. Now, as we're walking and talking, more art. Here is the York Street stop. Now notice, when we first talked to you, right off of the Brooklyn Bridge, we were not more than a 3-minute walk from the AC High Street Bridge. So we walked just a few minutes and we've been talking and looking at art, and now we're at the F train. That's what I was trying to definitely tell you. Dumbo is not a very big neighborhood. If you notice the colors, you notice the almost shapes but slight abstractness in them, the way it's kind of polygon looks, and that's Craig Anthony Miller. You can see the similarities. If you go back, rewind the video, to the owls and the birds we saw, and then the colors and the way the scheme is. So when we see the third one, you'll start to notice the similar and patterns, the similarity in colors of Craig Anthony Miller's style. Again, art, and you're in Dumbo, you don't have to, oh, I got to be here. Art's around you, and it's constantly changing. I don't even know, and I'm a guide, and other guides, what's out here. We have to come back out ourselves every 3 to 6 months just to see what might have changed, even if we're doing tours, because we might not go off a block or two and somebody put a mural up. Now, this is very important to understanding Dumbo. Remember what I say, by the 1870s, 1880s, the Industrial Revolution has hit. An area that was originally designed to be a relaxing farmyard to get away from the pleasures of New York is right by the water, away from a crowded Manhattan. This is perfect to build big factories and warehouses. This is where Dumbo really begins to rise. Retreat, woo! Yeah, he had a retreat. Now, what you don't know is at one time, this was one of the top wedding places, had a like an old cave-looking rustic cave, really cool restaurant and bar. They did over 200 weddings a year at this place when it was Retreat. Then one morning around 2014, 2015, I wake up to the paper and what do I see? Its owner is in jail for tax fraud and evasion, racketeering and extortion. They made him immediately close down the restaurant and bar. Uh-oh. What did I say happened a lot here? I had been in this bar quite a few times right after tour. Had fellow people come off tour. Weddings. How many did I say a year? 200 plus. And for all my people, especially my brides-to-be, how hard is it to get last-minute engagements or venue in May or in June for a wedding? This ended up going all the way to NBC Dateline here with a big news magazine, and it made the New York Times. There were people in court as the state was arguing for their money, the federal government was arguing for money. There were brides and grooms saying, get him, he ruined my wedding. Oh, it was a mess. So that's a personal story. People ask, what was this neighborhood like? Everybody in the neighborhood was talking about when Retreat went down. You can look it up. Remember I said, made NBC, Dateline, made the New York Times, and like front page news. Like it was serious, serious problems when this place went down. So that's a little bit of the feel of Dumbo. Really was a really cool place. Now that's changed. Now, once again, old warehouse building. We've talked about the outside. Watch how they reinvented it inside. You ready? You don't like this? We're going into the shops. You got psychics. Hey, you got readings even here. Right across from the readings, you might as well get glamorous. They didn't tell you about to make some money. You're about to make a little money. These are all small storefronts. These are, when you want to talk about innovative small business, this is it. If you notice, little jewelry, bougie Barbie. And that's where you go get your hair done. So you got the psychic to get you glamorous, to get your hair done, to a gentleman with his Emerald Gem Exchange who worked in the financial industry, had a family that worked in the financial industry, and he found his second calling. He still knows finance very well. He can come say hi. Brother, I've been talking to this gentleman for years. As a matter of fact, I brought a loved one, Stone, from him. He has quite a bit of clientele here in Dumbo, and what you may not realize is that there's even, he won't say, but certain Brooklyn Nets and other celebrities that do come in here and pop and buy things. So, hey, gives you a chance to buy something that a celebrity would have gotten before you, so at a reasonable price. So, Emerald Gem Exchange, my man. Always good to see you. Sign language store. This is what I mean. You can't make up the type of. We just went to a place that has a lot of spiritual power and emerald gem exchange with the jade gemstones, feng shui products. He'll often pray with you, talk about something in your energy that might fit you more. You saw Courtier store here. Another store had their flagship. Oh, look at the. Boy, I don't even want to see how much these dog vests cost. Oh, this is for dogs. Look at this. This is really cool, right? Right? I like my dog, but until I saw that price tag. No, I don't like him that damn much. And then there's a few that have been lost their lease, and somebody else will come in. But this is just part of the artistic, the branding of Dumbo, that you get all these little small businesses upstairs, a lot of multimedia companies. How did I know it was multimedia companies? Little tip of the business. Talk to the delivery people. So when you deliver something enough times, you tend to know what companies are in certain buildings. That's the way you learn. You talk to them, oh, well, is this multimedia company on this floor? Oh, is this company over here? Oh, they're an engineering firm and they're over here. And that's how I end up learning who's in different buildings in this area. Now, if this isn't cool enough, and we're about to go to a gym that this man right here boxed in, Iron Mike, bite him in the ear, Mike. Yeah, him. Brooklyn Community Radio. This is where they do internet radio. This is their actual studio. So get that. Actual studio, right here. Psychic. Courtier dogwear. And handcrafted jewelry and accessories. And the gentleman is actually making it right now as we're watching. So if you're here, you could walk into the store. They welcome people to walk in and buy. This is the Manhattan Bridge. This is the third of Brooklyn's bridges. People are like, why do they make 3 bridges for Brooklyn? I hear it's a question I get all the time. When you got 2.5 million people, one bridge ain't gonna get the job done. So the Brooklyn was the first in the 1880s, completed actually in 1883, the 25th of 1883. The second was the Williamsburg, and we'll see it in the neighborhood today of Williamsburg. We will see it from this tour. But they considered that back in the day a oogle, not ugly, a oogle bridge. And the third one, which a lot of people say is also a very pretty bridge and iconic, is the Manhattan Bridge. One time as you were coming out here from a tour, we happened to see a little thing on a sign, and the Manhattan Bridge said it was no longer in Manhattan. It said it was in a city called Gotham. Some guy named Bruce Wayne was involved. So that's from the TV show Gotham has shot out here. There's a lot of TV shows that shoot in this neighborhood. Look at this iconic view, a suspension bridge with iconic trusses, first of its kind, here on the Manhattan Bridge. And again, the third of the Brooklyn to Manhattan things. And again, why did they need 3 bridges? It's 2.5 million people in Brooklyn alone. They needed more ways to get around. You see the subway end up going over. At one time, the Brooklyn Bridge had subway going over. Today, neither large cars nor subway can go over the Brooklyn Bridge. Now, industrial. Why did you say nobody would have done tours of Dumbo years ago? Well, that sign is why. That's the old neighborhood. Wearing envelope. Make it real easy what they made. Envelopes. Not exactly a fun thing to go and tour is an envelope neighborhood. Moving up, but it's interesting as we look back on past how much stuff was made down here. You might just be able to faintly make it out. Smoking pipe and holders. Lots of tobacco came through this area. Lots of tobacco came through here. There were a lot of tobacco pipe holders, makers. They actually stored tobacco down in this area. So that was a big thing that came down here. Another thing that was down here in the warehouse, Colgate-Palmolive had a huge plant actually in this. And we all like our toothbrush, right? Now, because it's a little bit colder this time of year, don't ride under the Manhattan Bridge overpass. This is actually in the summertime where quite a few concerts go down. There's art festivals, there's food vendors, but as it's a little bit colder as we're filming this right now, you won't get all of that out here. You still see a little art. Like I said, it's always around in Dumbo. And even this, one of the cooler, it's not the coolest, but one of the cooler things that happened here was as the U.S. men's national team was in its most recent World Cup entry, and they were getting toward the quarterfinals, the games were being showed on a giant screen right under here. Hey, free tours by foot, y'all gonna like this. We're about to go into the bastion of great boxing, Gleason's gym. This place is historic. Literally over 100 world champion fighters have trained in it in its different locations, and it's been here for over the last 30 years. So you guys gotta check this out.
You recognize this, right? That's behind, that's the Brooklyn Bridge, that's the park.
Right.
Okay.
55 Water.
Right.
Empire Stores.
That's today, or recently anyway.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it was when we first came here.
Sure, you get this. Wow.
And that's what the area was like. There were squatters in some of the buildings, mostly artists, because there were squatters, nobody was charging anything. There were no businesses, no streets, no sidewalks, and plenty of crack. Crack and prostitutes, and, the mafia. This is where they would dump all their bodies and stuff like that. And so then we were looking for a space. We lost our space in Manhattan. We were looking for something, and David Walentis, who's with Two Trees, contacted us and said, you know, I understand you're looking for something. Let me show you what you have. Brought us over here to this desolate area and showed us a mock-up of what it was going to look like, how nice it was going to be. That didn't matter to us, so we're a boxing team. So what sold us, he gave it to us dirt cheap. It was like, the rent was very, very enticing. So we came over. But I have to tell you that everything that David Walentis said he was going to do to the area, he did.
Wow.
It went from this devastated, terrible area without streets and sidewalks to Dumbo is now currently ranked the fourth wealthiest neighborhood in all 5 boroughs. So yes, by all means, you can go take a picture.
Oh, thank you. That's a good one. That's you right there.
Yeah.
That's you sitting right there.
Yeah, we've had 136 world champions. Ali and Tyson. Our first champion was Jake LaMotta, and then we made the Raging Bull.
No, not Robert De Niro. Jake LaMotta, the real one. Raging Bull. But that was a damn good movie.
However, come over here. I have De Niro up there somewhere. Oh, okay. The third one up. That's De Niro.
Yep.
Wagner Park.
He came here?
Yeah.
He came to, wow.
He's
Look at Usher.
Do you recognize Tony Danza, or do you even know who Tony
Oh,
Danza is?
I love him.
Remember Tony Danza was a fighter.
That's right, he was.
And then he was one of our fighters. And then a casting director came in and they were looking for somebody for Taxi, a television show called Taxi. He got introduced and now he went on becoming successful.
Yeah, I believe it. Hillary Saint to Gleason's butt.
130 world champions have trained at this gym. It originally started in the Bronx, moved to Manhattan, but then the 80s hit and rent went up and they needed somewhere to be. Now, just talking with the owner, it was the middle of the crack epidemic. There were a lot of vice throughout the streets, we'll leave it at that. There was many things. This was a destitute area, and David Walentis, who is a very important name, owns Two Trees Group. He's the person that will give Dumbo its current name down under Manhattan Bridge Overpass. And Two Trees bought up a lot of this area. He gave them super cheap rent, and this is where they've come. Now, I have been in here and run into world champions myself, boxing. As you see, quite a few female boxers, and you see people training all around. There's actually, this one over here is actually for wrestling. So people come in here to learn pro wrestling too. But there's boxers, This is where Justin Trudeau, as a Prime Minister of Canada, came in here and got some boxing lessons. For the movie Money Train, J-Lo trained here. Hilary Swank, anything that has to do with Broadway or the movies, a lot of the people are trained by professional Olympic champions, world champion boxers in this place. How many times can you say you're on a tour and come into a real boxing gym? You can swell the sweat. You could see somebody who is currently a world-ranked boxer in here just practicing. And you can, for $100 a month, you can be a member too. So, again, Gleason's, they also now have a gym in Italy. You can find them online. If you know anybody who's a boxing enthusiast, and since we talk to so many different cultures from all around the world, here at Free Tours by Foot, there are from Mexico to Germany to Australia to Israel. There are boxing fans worldwide. They have probably, if they're a big boxing fan, they've heard of this gym. And so you're getting a little bit of a look of what it's like to be inside. We're still here on Water Street. Very similar. Some of this land might have been pushed out to make it a little bit better. Landfill, that happens a lot in New York. It certainly happens a lot in Lower Manhattan. And we're now about to show you one of the reasons. This is they say this is the most photographed shot in Brooklyn right now. And just behind Times Square and Central Park and the Empire State Building, this may be the next most. With the Manhattan Bridge now directly behind us, let me try not to get ran over by a car. No, they kind of used to it. And if you aim this right like we're doing right now, so you watching at home, if you aim this like we're doing, you notice you have the Manhattan Bridge behind you, but you also have the Empire State right in the middle. I can't tell you how many car commercials, models and different commercials I've seen, and it's this exact shot. You have all at home seen this exact shot. So if you come here, right on the corner of Washington and Water, you'll get the same shot right off of Gleason's. And this whole area, I want to point out, two trees, New York. Now, remember we were just in Gleason's, and we talked about, while in Gleason's, we talked about that they lost their lease right by Madison Square Garden in the mid-'80s, and they came to a very destitute area that is now Dumbo. And remember I said it was vice all over the streets. I'm not trying to be too vulgar, so we'll just leave it at vice. There's a lot of wild things happening in the neighborhood. Also some good rave parties. But Two Trees, David Walentis started buying up things, and he gave them that cheap rent. And as the owner of Gleason said, everything he said he would do to this neighborhood, he did. Today, in some of the former warehouses, you can kind of see through the windows. This is some of the nicest loft-style apartments in Brooklyn. Today, Dumbo is the 4th wealthiest neighborhood in New York City. In New York City. And remember what they said in the mid-'80s? It was destitute, was not a nice place to live. You'll see them. You guys will see the pictures as they come up. So Two Trees bought out. They restored a lot of this. And today, even as we're speaking now, I told you, you're getting all around us, you're still getting people to take video. You come down here, guarantee you won't be the only person getting this shot. So you might as well get it in while you can. Now, this is a legacy Brooklyn Bridge Park of Mayor Bloomberg. Bloomberg understood the need for aesthetically pleasing places, the need for foot traffic that Jane Jacobs had talked about in her seminal book going back to the 70s and the rebirth of a place like Soho. So he was looking for something that he'll be known for generations from now and something to help revitalize New York. So he took former, look, we got Google here. Somebody shooting a movie. It's pretty interesting. He took former docking areas and yards and helped turn it into Brooklyn Bridge Park. Now, it's not just here in Dumbo. This runs the stretch of the East River, what would be Brooklyn Heights, just underneath the Brooklyn Heights Promenade, right up in toward nearly Cobble Hill, if you know Brooklyn neighborhoods very well. So, and as we can see the sign here, Brooklyn Bridge Park. So this started being completed around 2008, 2009, 2010. It wasn't complete yet, but the first wave of it set off. From that, this has turned into what's been often nicknamed the Brooklyn Riviera, because there's so many upscale stores, so many people like the restaurants and everything on it, and the sweeping views. It's like revitalization. Ah, man, they would put some scaffolding up to ruin my view. I was having such a good time. As we walk this way, we're directly underneath the Manhattan Bridge. Looks like they're doing some construction on it. Note to audience. One of my favorite notes to audience. There are boats, the East River Ferry, one of the best ways, and we're going to end by it, one of the best ways to get around New York, because you can go from here, that is the Williamsburg Bridge in the background. That's going to another part of Brooklyn, Williamsburg, Brooklyn, itself completely revitalized. You can go, hey, how you doing? You can go, what's up, what's up? You can go to the financial district, right across by boat, take you less than 3 to 5 minutes. You can go up the East River toward the UN, Lower East Side, all by boat. Same price as the subway right now. And a lot of people are using them and coming around. The views from here are now world renowned. And is not underestimating. Look at the view. You have the Williamsburg Bridge in the background. Now we can see the World Trade Center, Lower Manhattan Skyline. The famed Brooklyn Bridge is right there. And it's just this calmness, other than the trains going by. It's just a peacefulness, it's a calmness. And you're just enjoying the view and sweeping things. I cannot tell you how many wedding photos I've seen shot from this area. I can't tell you how many people just coming to have fun and looking, but you see people jogging, as you see right behind me, but a lot of people just enjoy now being on this waterfront. You can see some of the beautiful apartment buildings in the background. Now, I want to take a look up at the clock tower at the Wallentis building, again, named after, or at least once he bought it, named after David Wallentis, who has Two Trees Company. That clock tower area, we're going to see it more than one time, and I'll point it out more than, it's several stories high, and just the clock in the area. That's one apartment to itself. This has now been transformed into a apartment building. That apartment was looked at by Calvin Klein. He decided to pass. Jay-Z looked at it. He decided to pass too. And some other wealthy person decided to buy it at $25 million. They're not a well-known name as those celebrities are, but their money is all their money the same. And so that is right now holding the title for most expensive apartment in Brooklyn. $25 million. But again, it's 10,000 square feet. A space, it's several stories high, and look at their everyday view. So it's truly, that same building Anne Hathaway lived at one point, the actress. So the actress Anne Hathaway also has lived at that building. Again, you heard me say, fourth wealthiest neighborhood in New York. There's a lot of today wealthy people living here. No, that carousel was not always there. You're taking a look back here. That carousel, you see me pointing out to, was not there. Matter of fact, I think that's from Ohio originally. I went to quite a few concerts here in the early 2000s, right on these waters. This building didn't look anything like this. And that carousel wasn't out there. They refurbished the carousel and wanted to make this a little bit more family friendly. And they put that in the early 2010s. So no, that's not, oh, it's been out there forever. No, they didn't have paper box factories and cigar makers and children's carousel. If you go back far enough in time, both here in the South Street Seaport, 1910s, 20s, 30s, young boys would do what's known as skinny dipping, where they take off all their clothes in the summer and jump in the river and swim. Today it would cause a national panic, but back then that was called Tuesday. Beautiful exchanges we're looking at right now. The lights of the city begin to come out. You can make a very good argument. Is it prettier in the day or is it prettier at night? You can make a strong argument either way. I've been here many times during the day. It's magnificent. It's just as magnificent at night while the light's out. So that's another thing I would recommend. You don't have to necessarily do it in the day. It might be good if you can catch it toward evening and sun setting, because you can get some spectacular photos. I want to take a few seconds out, free tourists, for everybody to take a look at this. Railroads. You see this? Railroad crossings. So, this go all the way out to Long Island? No. What this was to transport all the goods made at these big warehouses down to the water where it could be taken away by boats. One of these areas had a yard where over 106 different train cars could be kept. And they even had a floating bridge on Bridge Street so that they could take different train cars. Both this and Williamsburg have train tracks running out to water. Again, rail, the warehouses to train. This is one of the reasons this neighborhood died, as did Williamsburg. Big change. Little things can mean big changes. We did all type of railroads and yards and ferrying. And then the interstate highway system started getting built by the 50s and 60s. And America started going to semi-trucks and cars. So one thing, this is a big street, but a lot of these streets I've been walking with you on this tour, just didn't bring it up to now, they're narrow. How are you going to get a semi-truck making a wide turn down some of these narrow streets? It's cumbersome and it's difficult. You'll move out to other states, Jersey, even further out, that's now developed for interstate highway travel and a lot more space. But what did it mean for New York in a lot of its narrow streets? Bye-bye factories, bye-bye warehouses. So again, though we've had a lot of fun, something that you might not think about, transportation and its impact, the car, the interstate highway system, and how it led to the death of a neighborhood like this. If you notice, West Elm, which is a very famous store, and they're actually headquartered here in DUMBO. So West Elm is a very big furniture store. They are actually headquartered here in DUMBO. This is 55 Water Street. For when it gets cold outside, they got the heat lamps. A lot of really nice restaurants. It's a really thriving restaurant scene. Don't let today fool you. Right here on the water. One of the more interesting things that I found in my own time, and I'm going to give it for you to go and check out on your own, is some 1990s hip hop videos. Big hip hop fan myself. And some of these were amazing groups, including the ever-present Jay-Z. One of his first videos, Dead Presidents 3, you can see him right outside. They drive a car, and today they repaved it, made trees and stuff. You can see him drive a car, and it looks like they're doing an illegal deal right in front of this building. I don't even think they were looking for permits out there. You can also check out A Tribe Called Quest, one of my personal favorites. We got the Jazz. You can see the same stars that's on this building right here. So a whole lot of 1990s hip hop videos, some of the biggest groups, I was there just watching TV, I was like, wait a minute, I know that area. That's Dumbo. So we're even surprised. Well, talked about this earlier. I want to bring this back up to you. East River ferry boats. Remember I talked about this? People, you gotta use these boats. If you're a great way to go back to the city, and you get even more magnificent views of both bridges. And it has an indoor. So if it's a cold day or it's raining, well, not raining, hopefully too hard, you can go inside and stay warm, or it's a nice day, you could be outside, and for $3, you can't pick up the visual aesthetics. Now, we're going to Empire Stores today. One of our big draws to this neighborhood of Dumbo. The Brooklyn Historical Society, which is actually located in Brooklyn Heights at a building that actually is the same man who created the New York Stock Exchange, who created a building. But they also have a second outlet here. It's good to go, learn more history, some great things to buy. Timeout Market, so there's dozens of companies, food places that are throughout New York and especially Brooklyn. Let me explain this to you for all of you who don't know. Brooklyn people are not from New York, they're from Brooklyn. You see even on my shirt, Brooklyn, you see this, right? And they always tell you they're from Brooklyn first, and then they might mention New York. So these might be a few other places that's in New York, but it better be a lot of Brooklyn places or Brooklyn people are gonna have a fit. So you'll see that, especially a lot of places. So free tours, we're here outside of St. Anne's Warehouse. This is connected to St. Anne's Church, which is a historic church right up the road in Brooklyn Heights. They have different performances and things over the years, and they finally just turned it into a all-year performance space. Now, I have seen the great artist David Byrne, great musician David Byrne, play here. The Royal Orchestra of Scotland, Royal Theatre of a couple different countries perform and do things. So there's some big acts that come into St. Anne's Warehouse. And again, it's connected to a historic church. But so there is thriving art scene out here. Free tours by foot as we transition into the nighttime here in Dumbo. It's still the right time to be here. This is one of Brooklyn's famed restaurants. This is the River Cafe. As you see, it sits right underneath the Brooklyn Bridge. You could say Brooklyn Heights. You could say Dumbo. Most people here don't argue about it. They just say Brooklyn Heights, Dumbo area. But this is, for many years, Brooklyn's only Michelin-rated restaurant, and is still highly rated. Many people consider it one of Brooklyn's top restaurants to this day. Nouveau American food, some classics that you're going to get, is really beautiful, and it sits right on the water, as you see right here. So again, this was for many years Brooklyn's only Michelin-rated restaurant. That's not true. Today, Brooklyn has well over 10 plus Michelin-rated restaurants. That's probably outdated too. It's probably a lot bigger than that. Well, for years, this was the standard bearer for the culinary scene in Brooklyn. The way food is presented, the styles, the flavor, respected chefs. We're at Old Fulton Street, which was named after Robert Fulton. This area is where the world's first steam engine was used in wide use by Robert Fulton, and that's why it's Old Fulton Street. And it also marks the area where George Washington left after losing the Battle of Brooklyn. That happens when it's 10,000 troops against 40,000. Imagine 1,000 ships in the harbor behind us coming for war. It's the biggest ever invasion by the British Navy, all the way into modern times, was to quell the rebellion in 1776. So, this is where Washington made a skillful retreat. He had 300 soldiers from Maryland hold the line in the middle of the night, and this is where they got out of. This is also where Brooklyn's first free black town was. There was a lot of history in this area. And we're going to end this with Dumbo, Ample Hills ice cream, good, and I'll give you a little sweet tooth. But we're also where the East River ferries dock. And they took an old entertainment barge, and now during the summer, they play jazz and orchestral music, barge music behind us. This Brooklyn ferry landing, from which was point the American Army embarked during the night on August 29, 1776, and it saved George Washington's life, because every other soldier might not have been hung, but he would have been hung for treason, leading a foreign army against Great Britain, which was, he was supposed to be a loyalist too. You notice they kept the old, or at least brought them in, from when it used to be docks. And now that it's nighttime, you get a really fantastic view. Again, you could see Lower Manhattan, that's South Street Seaport, Pier 16, which does have entertainment. It has concerts going on there. You can see the Empire State glaring back at you. And these lights right here for the East River Ferry. Again, that's what I was telling you. This is the end of Dumbo, but you can take this ferry in here. The ferry is an excellent idea. You could be at Wall Street, take the ferry. Once it takes off, you'll be here in less than 5 minutes. You can't beat that. You really can't beat that. This is the border where it says welcome. That used to say Watchtower because that was the Jehovah's Witnesses building. But that's a different tour. That's Brooklyn Heights. You'll come back to us on that one another time. So I want to thank you all from Free Tours by Foot. My name is Derrick Edwards. You can see on our little chyrons that'll come up how to catch me on Instagram. You can Venmo me if you'd like to leave a tip. And I hope you had as good as a time as I did going through here in beautiful Dumbo, Brooklyn. Come back and see us again soon, all right?